Exclusive contract novel from Feilu Novel Network. A person is bombed in Gaza. I build a red police base. Shen Fei came from Yiwu to the Middle East and Gaza to do business. However, he realized that his goods were bombed by the Jewish army during the Israeli Palestinian War. He thought he was about to face death, so he activated the red alert system at this time. As long as he kills the Jewish soldiers and destroys their tanks and fighter jets, he can obtain funds. He has produced Dragon Flame Army, Kirin Breakthrough Tank, Qingfeng Missile Vehicle, Qinglong Combat Corps Ship, Bifang Support Aircraft, Zhuke Attack Aircraft, Jinwu Bomber, Jimeng Destroyer, Proton Impact Cannon, and so on. Starting from reclaiming territory in Gaza, then destroying the enemy to dominate the Middle East, and finally dominating the world, it will be their Chinese territory. Feilu Novel Network reminds you that this novel and its characters are purely fictional. If there are any similarities, they are purely coincidental and should not be imitated. Chapter 1. People in the Middle East, starts bombed, seeking fresh. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Parallel World, Gaza. This is a narrow strip of land covering 365 square kilometers, located along the Mediterranean coast. It should have been a beautiful and prosperous place, but due to its strategic importance in ancient Pharaoh, Assyria, Rome, Byzantium, Arabia, Crusaders, and many other civilizations intertwined, it has become a battleground for soldiers. The long history has not brought prosperity to the people, but rather the rebirth of conflicts and constant wars. The outside is separated by the tall walls built by the Jewish state, making it more like an open-air Nazi concentration camp. Normally, this kind of place where birds don't poop is not suitable for doing business. But there are always accidents in life, but Shen Fei's second uncle happened to make money and even became a well-known wealthy person in the county, which only took a few years. After graduating from college, Shen Fei once asked his second uncle for the secret to wealth. The answer obtained is seeking wealth insurance. A month ago, I was fired for contradicting the boss's sister. Law. In the current environment of the Dragon Kingdom, where he has been implicated as the King of Scrolls, he cannot find another well-paying job, and he no longer wants to work as a forced laborer. With a dream of becoming rich, and despite infuriating his parents, he resolutely mortgaged the house his parents bought for his wedding in the county town and obtained a loan of 3 million yuan from the bank. Under the guidance of his second uncle, he brought a batch of daily necessities from Yiwu and came all the way here. Not to mention, coming here is really the right place. The industry and commerce here are very poor, and these affordable items are exactly what Canaanites need. These 2 days of business have made him experience the joy of doing business. As long as the goods in the back carriage are sold out, there is a chance of making a profit even after returning to the original value. Sitting inside the driver's cab of a large truck, Shen Fei leaned out and glanced outside. The night was so seductive, while the city was brightly lit, making people feel less lonely even in a foreign land. His mind is filled with longing for a better life, and he wants to use his young body to create his own wealthy family. Woo-woo, woo-woo. Suddenly, at this moment, a rapid air defense warning sounded, incredibly piercing, echoing through the entire night sky. All the lights in the urban area instantly went out. Sleeping trough, is this an air raid? Shen Fei was momentarily confused, and it was difficult to imagine whether the voice was familiar or not. The annual air defense alerts in China only remind people of the day in history when cities were bombed by Japanese pirates, and they didn't expect them to experience it firsthand here. Dong dong. Shen Fei was in constant doubt when suddenly someone knocked on the car door. Looking out with a probe, it turned out to be an old man who had bought something in the afternoon. Young man from the Dragon Kingdom, hurry up and find a place to hide. The Jewish kingdom has launched an air raid. The old man reminded with an anxious expression on his face. You won't blow me up, will you? I have the flag of the Dragon Kingdom on my roof. Shen Fei smiled and shook his head gently, politely refusing, mainly reluctant to part with the goods in the carriage, which was his entire fortune. Hey, young man, they don't know how to distinguish these things. Hurry up and leave. The old man spoke up again to persuade. He was well aware of how brutal the Jewish state was, and bombing was indiscriminate. Even the rescue convoys of the United Nations would still bomb. Thank you, Grandpa. I'll stay here. Seeing Shen Fei so resolute, the old man sighed lightly, shook his head without saying a word, and turned around to leave. Isn't the Jewish state really going to blow up my car? Seeing the regretful expression on the old man's face as he left, Shen Fei fell into a brief moment of contemplation. To be honest, he has no bottom in his heart either. Previously in China, he had read many articles online about the Jewish state, saying that they were very good and had close relations with the Dragon Kingdom. Since that's the case, he probably won't be bombed. After getting off the car, he lit a cigarette and looked up. The night sky was quiet and didn't look like there were fighter jets attacking. Boom! Before he could finish smoking a cigarette, a mournful wind-breaking sound suddenly sounded, followed by a bomb exploding at a speed visible to the naked eye, with a piercing roar, landing incredibly accurately on his rear carriage. The violent explosion suddenly opened, and the rear carriage suddenly expanded and burst. A shock wave containing terrifying energy struck, and his small body was lifted out like a kite with a broken string. The fireball quickly engulfed the entire truck. Finally, he landed heavily on the ground. Throughout the journey, he was completely stunned, his head buzzing and his ears making loud noises that could never be heard again. Cough. I don't know how long it took, but he woke up and slowly opened his eyes. His gaze was filled with the disheveled locals and the old man who had reminded him to evacuate before. Everyone looked at him anxiously. My goods, my goods. Shen Fei almost instinctively wanted to get up and take a look at his truck and cargo. The excruciating pain all over him left him with no strength at all. I don't know what the old man said, but the crowd immediately made way for a gap, and as he struggled to sit up, he finally saw it. The truck was completely unrecognizable and ignited a raging fire. As for the fate of those goods, one can imagine it. His entire fortune was blown up like this. Suddenly, an unnamed anger surged out, and the only established fondness for the Jewish state in my mind disappeared completely, replaced by anger and a strong desire for revenge. He just followed his second uncle's footsteps to the Gaza Strip to search for gold, without provoking anyone. The procedures were complete when he entered the border, and even so, he still gave a lot of benefits to manage the YAG soldiers at the checkpoints. Now the Jewish state not only bombed his truck, but also almost killed him. Personal confrontation with the country, what nonsense. Revenge is not to mention. Are you just admitting defeat like this? The despair quickly spread over Shen Fei. Ding! The red alarm system has been successfully activated. Just as he felt life was dull and lifeless, a mechanical reminder sound suddenly rang out in his mind. As a traveler who had read numerous novels, Shen Fei naturally knew that it was his golden finger activated. However, he did not expect it to be the red alarm system, which immediately shook his mind and made him ecstatic. This proves that there is hope for his revenge. The system is loaded and ready to serve you at any time. Your Excellency Commander. A series of warning sounds sounded one after another, like a continuous injection of vitality into his body, bringing him back to life with full blood, but his expression became exceptionally resolute. The people around scattered when they saw that Shen Fei was not a big deal, searching for others, but naturally did not notice his changes. Getting up from the ground, Shen Fei took a deep look at the truck that had turned into scrap metal. He turned around expressionlessly and left. He didn't even care about the dust on his body, he needed to find a place as soon as possible to start his lewd development. Chapter 2. Launch the base vehicle and start building. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Blood for blood, tooth for tooth. Shen Fei believed that he was not a person who would seek revenge, but it was impossible to make him swallow his anger like this. In order to stand out, he almost broke with his parents. The bombing of the Jewish state now not only destroyed his millions of goods, but also the house mortgage to the bank, making him a complete debtor and destitute. Dragging his painful body, he took deep and shallow steps towards the outside of Gaza City. I don't know how long I've been walking, but I've completely walked out of the inhabited area, surrounded by a barren land. Shen Fei stopped and looked around. Under the starlight, the area in sight was about the size of a few football fields, with a sandy ground that was very flat. The air was filled with the smell of seawater. Let's start from here. Shen Fei clenched his fists slightly and immediately took out the base vehicle named Fulong Hall, which was included in the system activation, from the warehouse. Buzz. Suddenly, a mechanical sound appeared out of thin air, and a highly mysterious Eastern air warship appeared before us in the blink of an eye. Immediately upon landing, it began to deform and unfold. In just a moment's effort, a massive building full of futuristic science fiction punk colors rose from the ground. Standing in front of it, Shen Fei was shocked, but he also felt small. However, it made him feel new and full of passion. But I also understand that the system is activating the Shenzhou faction in the Red Alert 3 Corona. What a Fulong Hall. Shen Fei swallowed his saliva fiercely, suppressing his excitement and walking around the base. After a round trip, he had a general understanding of the main base in this Shenzhou camp. It has a total length of about 200 meters, a width of nearly 30 meters, and a height of about 17.8 meters. It is full of the classical colors of the Dragon Kingdom, and there are patterns like auspicious clouds and waves on the exterior walls. There are about 5 floors in total, and each floor has the arch of wooden architecture cornice of the Dragon Kingdom style. Cow. It's really amazing. Directly brightening the blind person's eyes, his breathing became much faster. I don't know what layout is inside. Although he had played the Red Alert 3 Coronation Shenzhou camp before, Shen Fei had never delved into the internal structure of the Fulong Palace. He stopped in front of the front door and suddenly felt a bit complacent. He knew that this would be his own home in the days to come. After dusting off the dust on his body and wiping away the dirt on his face, Shen Fei took a deep breath and lifted his leg, walking in with great solemnity. The heavy rolling shutter door opened, and a dark blue energy light curtain separated the space inside and outside. Shen Fei walked past without any obstacles, the faint blue light fading away, and a plaque on his right hand caught his eye, which read the introduction of the base. The first and second floors are for building research areas, the third and fourth floors are for command areas, and the fifth floor is for the commander's living area. Continuing inward is like entering a massive military factory. The walls are very clean, with various instruments and display screens flashing with light. In the middle, there are large mechanical equipment, furnaces, and various tools, making it a construction center. Entering even the innermost elevator, we arrived at the second floor. Unlike the first floor, it was more like a research laboratory, filled with Avant-Guard and SCI.FI elements, which was even more refreshing. What impressed Shen Fei the most was that there was an independent room here, and he hurriedly walked over to the construction platform in the most prominent place. Suddenly, my eyes lit up a bit. On the virtual panel of the console, all the building units of the Shenzhou camp in the Corona of Red Alert 3 were displayed in an incredibly clear manner. The main building page has icons such as Launching Pavilion, Melting Furnace, Shinji Camp, Heavy Armor Workshop, Yuta Navigation Platform, and Luchuan Dock. But now only the first 3 have turned red. On the shield page, Shen Fei also clicked to view it. It has iron walls, quantum construction cores, lotus lanterns, maintenance sky lanterns, etc., all of which are covered in gray icons. What does this mean? It means that, like in Red Alert 3, he needs to constantly develop in order to unlock these black technology units. It seems that the road to revenge is heavy and far off. Looking at these dim icons, Shen Fei still had a big gap in his heart. He is very clear about what kind of powerful opponent he is facing, so he cannot be in a hurry now. However, he quickly set this as his goal, hoping to develop to the strength of the Shenzhou camp. In terms of the army, such as the Long Yen Army, the Sky Eye Sentry, the Armor-Breaking Iron Guard, and the Military Department's Equipment Department. The Navy has magnetic crossbow air defense systems, Jiming destroyers, Xianming battleship cruisers, Xuanwu-class attack submarines, and so on. As for the Air Force, there are Baifeng support aircraft, Zhuke attack aircraft, Phoenix fighter jets, and so on. Regardless of the type of military, they have abundant military strength. In the Red Alert 3 Coronation game, the Allied, Soviet, and Sunrise factions are also very powerful, and their technological expertise is far beyond what can be compared to this era. However, the Shenzhou faction is irreplaceable in Shen Fei's heart. One reason is that he is a dragon man, so naturally he is more accustomed to operating this camp. Secondly, he thinks that the buildings of the Shenzhou camp are just one word, a handsome group. Just a base car looks like this. Is there a hanging bomb in the sky? Hey, if all these black technologies in Red Alert 3 were unlocked, how great it would be. I could easily crush the Jewish state and the eagle sauce behind it. Looking at the dark gray icon, Shen Fei let out a long sigh. He must return to reality. Revenge cannot be achieved overnight. He must be grounded and start from reality. The Israeli-Palestinian conflict has already begun, and the Gaza Strip knows without hesitation that it will be the core area of the conflict. Both in the air and on land, the Jewish state has absolute military advantages. There are military reconnaissance satellites in the sky and unmanned aerial vehicle reconnaissance planes in the air, making it extremely difficult not to be detected. Discover and destroy. He can't afford to gamble. Damn it, it's not easy to seek revenge. Humph, you have Zhang Liangji, I have a wall ladder. Thinking of those advanced investigation methods, Shen Fei still felt very headache-stricken, but he quickly saw the crack generator on the page. At this moment, Shen Fei is more calm than ever. Focusing on the construction page, after hiding an unlocked building, numerous buildings suitable for the current conditions appeared. After looking at the amount, there is 40,000. Under normal circumstances, the construction time is quite long. For example, a photovoltaic plant takes 7 or 8 hours, while others take longer. Fortunately, the red alert system he activated, like understanding Shen Fei's dangerous situation, invested in the acceleration performance of construction and production. It's just that the price has naturally doubled. Time waits for no one. In special circumstances, being a scapegoat is better than being an activated system and being killed by an enemy's explosion, right? He didn't have to worry too much anymore. After familiarizing himself with the operation of the control panel, he directly started building his own Red Alert war factory. Chapter 3. Red Alert Soldiers of Hamas Ethnicity, Shen Fei's. You are listening at Novel Full. Audio. At the beginning, he attempted to build a power plant. Because according to the Red Alert system, only by building a map of the power plant can we proceed. At present, he is not very familiar with the situation in the Gaza Strip and the Jewish state. If he insists on having memories, it is at most the area he arrived in after disembarking from Tel Aviv. As for the outside, it's all dark for him. Buzz. Accompanied by a slight tremor on the ground, through the surveillance video, he saw a magnetic energy reactor rising from the ground. Quickly, the display screen above the console flashed, and the map unfolded as if it were directly connected to satellites in space. As he had imagined, except for parts of the Gaza Strip, the surrounding areas of the base, as well as the places he had once driven a truck through, were all displayed. As for the other areas, they are all covered by dark cover. Wokeo, there is also a gold mine. Suddenly, a place on the map with a shimmering golden light caught Shen Fei's attention, and it was also nearby, which was a surprising surprise. I quickly clicked to check the detailed information of the gold mine. About 60 tons, which can basically meet the initial demand. After passing through the ore refining plant, the exchange ratio between gold and capital is 5 to 1, which means that after all mining is completed, a total of 12 million can be obtained. Seeing this result, Shen Fei's confidence has increased even more. Anyway, he will go crazy with construction first. Without any hesitation, he immediately built an ore refinery over there. Subsequently, barracks, tank factories, and aerial units were successively built. It's exactly the same as in the Red Alert game. When he arrived here, the power was immediately insufficient, forcing him to build 2 more power plants in succession. After the completion of the combat laboratory, he immediately built 2 crack generators. Until the completion of these 2 things, Shen Fei's suspended heart was finally released. That's a powerful presence that can even interfere with radar, satellites, and even human vision. The only drawback is that this thing has a radius of only 5 kilometers. That is to say, if someone breaks into the effective range of 5 kilometers, the interference will fail. The danger remains unresolved. One thing that Shen Fei felt like a clear mirror was that the Jewish state had already figured everything out in the Gaza Strip, and had dispatched countless special agents, drones, or satellites to monitor it every day. And all of this is something he needs to guard against. His above-ground buildings cannot be forced to hide as deep as 70 meters underground as members of the Canaan Resistance Organization, playing cat-and-mouse games with the Jewish state. It's even more impossible for him to bring base vehicles to fight guerrilla attacks against the Jewish state. Sleeping trough, spent so much at once. 25,000, however, when Shen Fei saw the amount of money consumed in the blink of an eye, he almost dropped his chin in shock. This is quite terrifying, isn't it? If consumed at this rate, he will go bankrupt in 2 days. No wonder people say that with a single shot of a cannon, there are 10,000 taels of gold. At this moment, he happened to see a mining truck carrying a load of gold into the ore refinery, and the immediate increase in money made him quietly breathe a sigh of relief. An increase of 1,000 funds per trip, 2 trips per day, can earn 2,000 in income. This is a bit slow. Must be increased. Shen Fei secretly estimated in his heart that although the gold mine was not very large, it could accommodate 2 mining trucks for transportation back and forth without any problems. He remembers when he played this game in the past, whether it was human-machine or fighting against people, he was crazily grabbing gold mines. He is an action-oriented person who does whatever he says. Immediately placed an order for an armed mining vehicle at the tank factory. This is also just in case. Money, it's temporarily settled. Next, let's expand our army and prepare for battle. Shen Fei is well aware that the large-scale development of tanks is definitely not realistic now, and he does not have as much funds. If he wants to confuse the public and make the Jewish state misjudge, the first thing to develop is light infantry. With light infantry, he is able to push the defensive circle outward, completely blocking the enemy from entering the crack generator zone. After zooming in on the map, Shen Fei found that the area he had chosen was very remote and barren, with 2 mountains at the exit, making it easy to defend but difficult to attack. To be on the safe side, he must occupy these 2 hills and build defensive positions. As long as there is a small amount of troops, it is possible to hold on to the path into this area, with a posture of 1 person guarding the pass and 10,000 people unable to escape. Only in this way can the time for the Red Alert base to be discovered by the Jewish state be extended as much as possible. Of course, he also wants to prevent the Canaanite resistance from coveting this place. Now his strength is still too weak, he must be extremely careful. Clicking on the barracks page, Shen Fei immediately noticed another difference from the Red Alert game. There are no options for mobilizing soldiers, but instead there are 2 categories. New recruits and veterans. New recruits, as the name suggests, refer to Red Alert soldiers who have only received 3 months of military training. Veterans, those are Red Police soldiers with certain practical combat experience. In reality, they are squad leaders with at least 5 years of military experience, and their various qualities are superior to those of new recruits. Veterans become elite soldiers after passing, possessing extremely rich combat experience as Special Forces soldiers. Like the very tough old Special Forces in reality, they won't choose from the new recruits. You can also choose a race. Seeing this racial group option, Shen Fei was greatly shocked and felt that this red alert system was specifically tailored for himself. Germanic, Chinese, Yag, Canaanite, Ursuline, Anglo, and so on, almost encompass all ethnic groups in the world, with different skin colors. This is particularly interesting, and for a moment Shen Fei was full of ambition. The first batch of conscripted people naturally mixed Canaanites, as well as Yag people, and of course, Angsa people. As for the purpose, it is natural to completely confuse the public and make the Jewish state and the Western countries behind it suspicious of each other. Even if they suddenly discover the existence of the Red Alert base, they dare not take action easily. In this way, he can earn more time for development. After surviving, Shen Fei still prefers to develop with the Dragon people as the main body. After all, when it comes to combat effectiveness, Dragon Country is the top blue star. Throughout the thousands of years of history, war has almost run through the entire process, and even the Wuxiong people, who are known as the Fighting Nation, will pale in the face of this. The United Dragon people are even more martial and virtuous, to the extent that there are only two factions among the people: conservative and radical. The conservative believe that the radical is not yet radical enough. Malgobi, I want your dog to bite the dog's fur. Seeing the continuous recruitment of new soldiers in the barracks, Shen Fei's mouth curved coldly. Chapter 4. Jewish Ground Vanguard Team Entering Gaza. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Any unit that comes out of the Red Alert base is absolutely loyal to him. This gives Shen Fei extra peace of mind, not to worry about any rebellious issues. When recruiting new recruits, he found that not only can their race and skin color be changed, but they can also adjust the weapons and equipment they use. The prerequisite for adjusting weapons and equipment is that it requires money. As for how much money to pay, it depends on the number of adjusted weapons and equipment. The initial equipment for new recruits in the barracks is a set of combat uniforms, helmets, and the main weapon is AK-47 or 56. The recruitment price is 100 yuan. The equipment of the veterans is more advanced, with each person wearing a camouflage combat suit, tactical helmet, bulletproof vest, sighting equipment, carrying gear and other basic equipment. The main weapon is an M4A1 automatic rifle, and the secondary weapon is the Glock 17 pistol. Recruitment price of 200 funds. Shen Fei carefully studied and found that both new and old soldiers were simple light weapons, but there were no heavy weapons, not even anti-armor or air defense weapons. In this way, the recruited soldiers are even less equipped than those of the Jianan Resistance Organization. Worry. If such Red Guards were to go up and fight against the regular Jewish army, it would not be beneficial to die. Shen Fei quickly checked the other options. Suddenly, he realized that soldiers could be recruited without having to recruit individually and then form groups, but rather directly selecting the mode of military branches. Of course, there is a prerequisite for this. Funds. Adequate funds. If individual recruitment belongs to retail, then recruiting by branch is equivalent to wholesale. The amount of funds required for both is naturally not at the same level. After quickly browsing through the military options, Shen Fei finally chose the enhanced infantry formation mode of the U.S. military, which is currently being imitated by the Blue Star countries. The configuration of a reinforced infantry platoon in the U.S. military is still very aggressive, with a total of 51 personnel, plus 3 assigned by superiors, for a total of 54 personnel. There are 3 infantry squads and 1 weapon squadron, each with 9 people. There is a class monitor and 2 firepower teams in one class. The firepower team usually has an M249 machine gun, an M320 grenade launcher, and an M4A1 automatic rifle with a high magnification lens installed. During combat, one person suppresses firepower with a machine gun, while the other person provides cover with a grenade launcher. The team leader in charge of the overall situation will assign a person with a high magnification M16A4 or an improved M14 enhanced combat rifle as a precision shooter, also known as the team's marksman, to carry out sniper missions. The weapon class belongs to the firepower enhancement class. A group carries two M249 light machine guns to suppress firepower and support the infantry squad. The other group has two sets of Javelin missile launch systems, which are used to carry out anti-armor or to dismantle fortifications to support operations. According to the needs of executing tasks, the superior will temporarily allocate 3 people: frontline observers, drone operators, and battlefield rescuers. This is the organization summarized by Eagle Sauce after years of war. Not only is the firepower fierce, but the personnel configuration is also very reasonable, without any redundancy. However, the current threat mainly comes from the air, and Shen Fei has made some adjustments to the weapon squad by replacing one set of the Javelin missile launch system with a Stinger anti-aircraft missile launch device. In this way, a reinforced platoon's firepower consists of 5 M249 light machine guns, 3 M320 grenade launchers, 1 Javelin missile launch system, and 1 Stinger missile launch device. Such luxurious equipment, combined with fierce firepower, is beyond words. However, the price has also risen with the tide. According to this organization, recruiting a Red Police officer requires a funding of 20,000 to strengthen the platoon. In terms of conversion, the recruitment price for about one soldier skyrocketed to 390, which is equivalent to the price of recruiting 2 veterans. Damn it, dare to bomb me, I'll make you never come back this time. Thinking of his truck and millions of worth of goods being bombed, Shen Fei felt a surge of anger in his heart. If he doesn't retaliate, will he still be a man? He, who has suffered from air raids, will not hesitate to pay even if it is expensive. Moreover, this is very worthwhile. Just like this, a reinforced platoon is placed on the mountaintop, with proper logistical support, and the unleashed combat power can completely withstand the enemy's heavy assault. Just like building buildings, recruiting soldiers in barracks also takes time. A barracks can recruit 2 red alert soldiers per hour, and there are 48 non-stop soldiers in a day. That is to say, in just 2 days, he can build a complete red alert infantry reinforced platoon. It's exactly midnight now. Let's get started. After enduring for 2 days, Shen Fei felt that he could still wait, so he directly ordered an infantry reinforcement platoon. He also found that after selecting this model to recruit Red Police soldiers, the barracks released troops on a squad basis, rather than waiting for them to be released together. Then he shifted his focus to the tank factory, which could produce armed mining vehicles, tanks, multi-functional infantry tanks, as well as Black Hawk helicopters, and so on. But each item is very expensive. In order to place an order for a red alert to strengthen the infantry platoon, Shen Fei has already used up all the remaining funds. I used to be a poor person, but now I am a poor person again. Sleeping trough, did I specifically confront the poor god? Seeing the 0 funds, Shen Fei had an impulse to curse. Without money, he couldn't do anything, so he got up and wandered around the base before finally arriving at the commander's living area on the 5th floor. The view here is very good, but unfortunately there is no scenery within the urban area, and one can actually see the Mediterranean. Don't be fooled by the fact that the area here is not as large as any of the floors below, it belongs to the category of sparrows. Although it is small, it has all 5 organs. There are also many living, entertainment, and medical facilities such as bedrooms, restaurants, cinemas, and even shooting ranges and swimming areas, which are completely like super luxury homes. Living here is completely a divine enjoyment. The life of a wealthy person is nothing more than that. Once his mind relaxed, Shen Fei felt the pain on his body and lowered his head to take a look. Originally, my body had not been cured yet. Fortunately, there was a medical room here, so I took off my broken clothes and walked straight in. By the time he came out, he had been completely rejuvenated and all the injuries on his body had healed. Sure enough, it's amazing. Seeing his perfect body as if it had been transformed, Shen Fei couldn't help but exclaim in admiration. Before he could even wait for him to marvel, a drowsiness suddenly struck, destroying his last persistence. He turned around and fell into the bedroom, falling into a deep sleep. Woo-woo. I don't know how long it took, but a sudden alarm woke Shen Fei up from his sleep. Enemy attack. He is well aware of what this alarm means. Almost subconsciously, he got up from the bed and rushed to the battle command room wearing only his big shorts. In the enemy-friendly situation map, he saw a group of Jewish soldiers entering the base defense circle. P.S. New book for newcomers, 100 fresh flowers for updates, 30 review votes for updates, asking for flowers for collection. Is there anyone reading it? Chapter 5. Red Alert Soldiers Kill Jewish Soldiers, Kill. You are listening at novelfull.audio. It's coming fast. Shen Fei's eyes gradually became cold. Since the enemy came to his door so quickly, there was no reason not to kill them. Moreover, if they are not killed, those dogs will immediately make the Jewish state aware of the abnormalities here. He doesn't want to expose the Red Alert base too early. The defense circle has been pushed 1 kilometer beyond the range of the crack generator. This gave him enough time to mobilize troops and generals. Fortunately, he set up the gathering place at the edge of the crack generator when recruiting soldiers in the ordered barracks. This is naturally done to make the enemy unable to understand everything here. It has been 8 hours now, and it's already daylight. No wonder the enemy has touched over. Shen Fei quickly looked towards the gathering place, where there were already 16 Red Guards, forming 2 infantry squads that could engage in combat and coordinate firepower with each other. And the enemy came with an infantry squad. Eat them up. Shen Fei decisively issued the battle order and directly dispatched these 2 infantry battalions to the necessary path for Jewish soldiers. He chose all the soldiers recruited earlier to wear the uniforms of the Canaanite Resistance Organization soldiers. He wanted the Jewish state to know that it was not the Red Guards who killed them, but the soldiers of the Canaan resistance, in order to confuse the public. Before his strength grows, all he needs to do is to use all means to preserve himself and win valuable time for development. Just like in the Red Alert game, he doesn't need to personally command the battle, he just needs to send his troops to the relevant positions and conduct a deployment. 2 infantry squadrons happen to be guarding the slopes on both sides of the road, forming a firepower angle to attack. I don't know if it's for heaven's mercy or for some reason, but the Jewish soldiers in this squad didn't ride in infantry tanks as usual. This gave Shen Fei confidence. In fact, he is also a military enthusiast and has some understanding of the infantry organization of the Jewish state. Basically, this country built its military by imitating eagle sauce and developing weapons and equipment based on this, but now they are mainly using domestically produced weapons and equipment. Anyway, it's over. 2 infantry squads arrived at the designated location and immediately ambushed, quietly waiting for the enemy's arrival. They were like a group of newly released tigers, starving and waiting for their prey to be brought to their doorstep. Unlike the computer version of the Red Alert game, it can switch between the first perspective like in a mobile game, allowing it to see the real situation on the battlefield more clearly. I made a special inspection and found it difficult for the enemy to detect the ambushed Red Guards from the valley road. He felt relieved now. The first time commanding a battle, it is inevitable that he will be particularly cautious, and he also has his own wild prospects. When eliminating this invading enemy, he will save his own strength a lot. As the enemy approached, the atmosphere suddenly became tense. Shen Fei's eyes were like those of a flounder, staring at the situation map without blinking. It's getting closer. 200 meters. 150 meters. 100 meters. It's getting closer. 10 meters. As he got closer, his heart also hung up, even his breathing was about to stop. From the first person's perspective, he could almost clearly see the appearance of Jewish soldiers, wearing dark green with a hint of earthy yellow military uniforms and standard steel helmets on their heads. In his hand, he also held the Colt CR.15 assault rifle and SR.25 Mk11 semi-automatic sniper rifle, which belonged to a standard infantry squad configuration. They surged forward with extreme caution, and the messenger at the end of the team was constantly reporting the latest situation. With the help of his first perspective, Shen Fei looked up at the sky, but fortunately did not find any unmanned reconnaissance planes, which relieved him a lot. As these dogs approached, Shen Fei became increasingly nervous. In the past, he was just a college student who had served in the military for 2 years and had not truly experienced the test of actual combat. Breathing. Breath. Sitting in the command hall, Shen Fei could clearly feel his heavy breathing and nervous emotions, with almost no sound in his ears. It seems that at this moment, he is the red police soldier lying on the ground, his gaze fixed on an enemy with unwavering determination, ready to shoot. Fire. Seeing the enemy have entered the encirclement, with the order of the squad leader, the trigger pulled and the bullet shot out of the barrel. Da-da-da. The sound of dense gunfire rang out, and bullets shot wildly towards the enemy team from the low mountains on both sides of you. Ding, kill 1 enemy soldier and reward 50 yuan. Ding, kill 1 enemy soldier and reward 50 yuan. Dot. Ding, kill 1 enemy squad leader with a reward of 100 yuan. Seeing enemies falling into a pool of blood, so dead that they could no longer die, Shen Fei was suddenly awakened by a crisp warning sound. The tense emotions were subsequently released. Lying trough. Is there a reward for killing enemies? Is there such a good thing? Shen Fei looked up incredulously at the funding box, and there was already a bright red number of 500, which was exceptionally eye-catching. It happened to be the number of Jewish soldiers in that team. Seeing the cumulative details, he now understands that the higher the position being killed, the higher the reward. If a major general commander is killed, wouldn't it be more rewarding? He remembers very well that when the Canaan resistance launched a sudden attack, they captured many senior commanders of the Jewish state. If they were to be killed by the Red Guards, it would be a huge waste. But it also allowed him to discover a brand new channel for earning money. The task of cleaning the battlefield is naturally entrusted to those 2 combat teams. It seems we need to take the initiative. Soon, Shen Fei became somewhat dissatisfied, mainly because Tainima was poor. Once a person is poor, they can do anything. A brand new plan was formed in his mind. This is the Gaza Strip, and there are too many enemies that can be hunted. After all, the Jewish state has set up many strongholds here. If a few are taken down consecutively, income will definitely increase. With soldiers, naturally if we go out to make money. Damn it. Shen Fei is very decisive. To take action, there must be a vehicle, and his gaze shifted from the tank factory to the air finger department. Like military barracks, the Air Command Department belongs to the category of helicopter manufacturing factories in reality, which can simultaneously produce fighter jets and helicopters from both Allied and Soviet camps. But currently, he can only produce 2 types of helicopters at his level, the Black Eagle helicopter and the Soviet Army's Deer armed helicopter. Both of these helicopters are still in service. Which one should I choose? For a moment, Shen Fei was somewhat indecisive. P.S. New book for newcomers, 100 fresh flowers for updates, 30 review votes for updates, asking for flowers for collection. Is there anyone reading it? Chapter 6. Building Armed Helicopters, Apache and Black. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Let's have 2 Black Hawk helicopters. After some practical consideration, Shen Fei finally made the production task of ordering 2 Black Hawk helicopters. In the Red Alert game, this helicopter is called the Nighthawk helicopter. The Jewish state has sealed off the entire Gaza Strip, and if there are any female Deer armed helicopters, they will definitely become eye-catching and be targeted by them. The Black Hawk helicopter is completely different. The Jewish state itself has this thing, and it is also the main model behind its leader, Eagle Sauce. Both special forces and conventional forces are equipped. It is mainly used to transport soldiers and supplies, and is also the preferred vehicle for Eagle Sauce Special Forces raids, but it is not equipped with any self-defense weapons. Usually, its travel requires the full escort of Apache armed helicopters. It has sufficient power, and the latest version of the battlefield situational awareness capability far exceeds before. It flies more quietly and is equipped with special armor that can absorb radar waves, making it impossible for enemy radar to detect its presence. More flexible than Ch.47 Zinyagan. It can accommodate 13 fully armed soldiers, and if additional seats are added, it can also accommodate more soldiers. If you load goods, you can load 1,200 kilograms and hang 2 tons of goods. Extremely meeting current needs. So if he is equipped now, it is reasonable that even if he is discovered, he can easily escape surveillance, thus achieving the point of confusing the truth and confusing the public. Furthermore, during the execution of tasks, the danger can be minimized. It can be said that it is a win-win situation. After exploring, Shen Fei discovered that there are still many differences between reality and games. For example, tanks or fighter jets created in the game can be directly commanded to fight, but in reality, almost all vehicles need to recruit drivers. According to the current camp, tank soldiers still need 3 more, and like pilots, the recruitment price is quite expensive, even more expensive than the soldiers recruited as a unit, at 600. The Black Hawk helicopter requires 2 pilots, which would consume 2,400 yuan. Plus the cost of the Black Hawk helicopter is 1,000 yuan. In total, it will require 6,400 yuan of funds. Looking up at the amount of funds, it is not yet enough to place an order for an armed helicopter, so we can only temporarily put it aside. However, placing an order for an armed helicopter will also bring a new trouble. The Jewish parliament quickly discovered and shot it down, which was a bit of a loss. There are still a lot of models that the Air Finger Department can produce. For example, AH.64E Apache armed helicopter, AH.1Z Viper armed helicopter, Mi-28 Cataclysm armed helicopter, V.22 Osprey transport helicopter and many other active aircraft types around the world. It not only has a factory building capable of producing helicopters, a small apron, and a hangar, but also functions as an air command center. As for the production of fixed-wing fighter jets, it belongs to the aircraft factory. The construction of such a factory requires a very large land area, and the supporting fighter jet takeoff airports, aprons, and so on are currently unable to meet these requirements. Naturally, modern fighter jets such as the F-22 Raptor stealth fighter, F-35 Lightning fighter, Su.57, and J.20 cannot be produced. Shen Fei carefully studied and found that all existing fighter jets in the world today, whether they are helicopters, fixed-wing fighters, transport planes, early warning aircraft, electronic warfare aircraft, etc., can all meet the production needs of red alert bases. However, the prerequisite is that he needs to develop more buildings and unlock more technology in the combat laboratory with black technology attributes. That's the way it works. Looking at the Black Hawk helicopter under construction, he began to look worried again. Although the area around the Red Police Base is steep, with 2 low mountain towns guarding the entrance and a barren desert area surrounding it, it is located in a remote area, with the nearest village and town about 5 or 6 kilometers away. But no one can guarantee that no other Jewish soldiers will come. The current and upcoming days will be the most vulnerable and sensitive period for the entire Red Alert base. Spending the day like a year, feeling anxious and extremely nervous is the current state of Shen Fei, which is not an exaggeration at all. Accumulating abundant grain and slowly becoming king is not suitable for him. Even if he doesn't want to engage in armed conflict with any force, he can't resist the enemy from infiltrating. Rather than letting the enemy come, it's better to take the initiative to attack. Pull the front line out. Moreover, He urgently needs funds for the development of the Red Police, and there are too many places where the money needs to be used. For example, in the game, all combat units have unlimited ammunition and do not require any logistical supplies, but this is reality. Whether it is the transportation tools needed for war or weapons and ammunition, all require massive logistical supplies. So much so that he found an additional logistics supply center building on the Red Alert construction page. It provides various weapons and ammunition, military uniforms and hats, food, and other necessary materials for combat, completely creating war machines based on combat. In addition, it is necessary to build hospitals to provide assistance to wounded soldiers on the battlefield. There is also an additional logistics support soldier and medical soldier in the barracks, two types of troops that have never appeared in this Red Alert game. Shen Fei focused on studying the logistics troops, who need to undergo a period of military training and are equipped with AK-47 automatic rifles. They do not participate in direct combat, but are multipliers of battlefield strength. In the later stage, it can be used as an expansion site, which is very good for maintaining public security. After all, the expanded territory also needs to be guarded to prevent the enemy from taking advantage of the opportunity to attack the old nest, and their prices are cheaper than those of Red Alert veterans, with 150 yuan per unit. As for hiring people in real life, Shen Fei has never considered it. Although the Red Police have their own emotions and sorrows, they are absolutely loyal to themselves, not like those people in reality, but also guard against their rebellion. Rather than taking such a big risk, it's better to nip all risks in the bud. At the current speed of mining, it simply cannot meet the demand, while killing enemies can increase income. Every Jewish soldier in his eyes is like a moving money tree. Money, you're a knife that kills without blinking an eye. If you don't cut yourself, you have to cut the enemy. Shen Fei was very clear that if he didn't go crazy about making money, the only outcome would be death. As for revenge, don't dream anymore. If calculated based on the difficulty of fighting against humans and machines in the Red Alert game, he is currently starting with a moderate level of difficulty. The Jewish state has a huge military organization and a massive military-industrial system. The Gaza Strip, where it is located, is firmly controlled by the Jewish state. If the eagle sauce behind it ends, the difficulty level will be directly increased. However, before making money, it is necessary to build some air defense systems. He doesn't want his home to be stolen after the soldiers launch an attack. PS, updated, flowers over 100 will receive more updates, feedback ticket difference of 30 will receive more updates, flowers requested for collection. Chapter 7. Midnight Military Operations of Red Alert Soldiers, Pulling. You are listening at novelfull.audio. While waiting quietly for the completion of the construction of the two Shadow helicopters, Shen Fei was not idle either. Spending some money, using the land leveling function inherent in the construction mode of the Red Alert base, a flat area was opened up on two hills to serve as a base. By the way, he also used this function to build a large road from the foot of the mountain on the back to the top of the mountain, which is a serious cement road. This is naturally done to enable the Red Police to quickly maneuver and reinforce the anti-aircraft positions on the mountain. Along the way, the ground has also been hardened and leveled as it enters the valley. There's no way, infrastructure like this must be built. Fortunately the cost is not very high, otherwise he would cry. As for the sand, he also needs to level it, otherwise it is impossible to build buildings such as power plants, let alone defense weapon systems. Shen Fei finally discovered that the Red Alert base was only used for military activities and warfare. It could recruit soldiers, produce various ammunition, tanks, fighter jets, and even build warships. But when it comes to people's livelihoods, it's probably equivalent to zero outside of the power plant. Fortunately, he basically doesn't consider developing livelihood-related undertakings now, let alone supporting so many people. He just needs to activate the war machine. Do Patriot missile systems and anti-aircraft guns still need to be chosen? What choices do adults make? It should be everything. Upon seeing that the defense equipment page had unlocked both air defense and close-range defense systems, Shen Fei directly ordered 2 close-range guns to be installed inside the base. As for those 2 Patriot air defense systems, they were directly installed on the mountaintop positions of the 2 mountains. At the same time, he spent another 2,000 yuan to purchase 2 sentry guns and 2 machine gun bunkers, all of which were placed at the mouth of the valley, with staggered firepower configurations to complement each other. With these 4 close-range weapon systems, there is no problem dealing with some light infantry or light armored vehicles. Even if a regular scale air attack is launched, he doesn't have to worry about the safety of the Red Alert base. In order to prevent the power shortage from causing these proximity defense systems to become decorations, he placed an order to build a power plant, which suddenly cost 800 yuan. All of these are constructed with cracks to create a flag effect within a range of 5 kilometers, leaving the enemy confused. As for other places, he deliberately built walls. After this series of actions, Shen Fei directly turned this place into a country in the middle of the country, naturally in order to further reduce the possibility of the Red Alert base being discovered. His hanging heart finally eased a lot. However, this operation also led to a visible decrease in his Red Alert funds. Just persevered for 2 days. He also fully adapted to the life at the Red Police Base and truly regarded himself as the highest commander. To put it more bluntly, he is the king here. The bright sunshine shone on a handsome young man with a sword eyebrow star, and waves of cool Mediterranean breeze occasionally brushed his short hair, making him particularly comfortable. Wearing a short-sleeved shirt and a military green capris, he looked very sunny and refreshing all over. With both hands resting on the armrest of the 5th-floor balcony, watching the short video news on my phone, a faint smile couldn't help but curl up at the corner of my mouth. 9 soldiers from the Jewish state were killed by the Canaanite resistance during ground operations in Gaza. The myth of the Jewish state's immortality is shattered. It's difficult to pay attention to such eye-catching news headlines, but just calculate the number to be exactly the same as the intruders he killed before. This is the best news he has seen recently. Faced with 9 soldiers killed in battle in one day, Jewish Defense Minister Gallant claimed that it was a heavy and painful blow. We are ready to face a long and complex battle, and the Jewish state will definitely win in the end. We will launch a new round of retaliatory actions against the Canaan Resistance Organization. In the news, Shen Fei saw the next counterattack measures taken by the Jewish state. This is because the Jewish state has assumed that the members who massacred their soldiers are members of the Canaan Resistance Organization. As if proving their own strength, the Canaan Resistance Organization declared to the outside world that they were responsible for this matter. Interesting. It's getting more and more interesting. As long as the Jewish state does not doubt its own head, it can continue to hide in the dark and fish in troubled waters. Return to the command center. Sitting on the chair, his gaze immediately focused on the map. The enlarged enemy-friendly situation map makes one's scalp tingle. The Gaza Strip is filled with checkpoints, strongholds, and camps set up by the Jewish army, almost monitoring the entire Gaza Strip. According to the organization of the Jewish state, an outpost basically belongs to a military configuration of 1 to 2 squads. And a stronghold has almost a platoon of troops. As for the number of troops in the campsite, there is even more, with 1 company and 1 battalion, all organized according to needs. After watching for a while, it was dazzling, and Shen Fei had to take technical measures to screen out all those checkpoints as alternative attack targets. Given his current strength, it is still difficult to pull out the enemy's stronghold. But if he pulls out the whistle, he still has full confidence. During this period, 2 Black Hawk helicopters have been built and the recruited pilots have also entered their roles, fully capable of carrying out any mission. The number of Red Alert soldiers has also increased to 100, equivalent to a formed infantry platoon, plus several infantry squads. This, and this one. Soon, Shen Fei selected several of the most threatening checkpoints. These are all the nails that must be pulled out tonight, and he doesn't want to be targeted by the Jewish state as soon as he comes out. And these nails, I'm afraid even the members of the Canaan Resistance Organization themselves may not be aware. Most of them are located within a range of less than 3 kilometers from the base exit, and if he wants to cause trouble in the east, he cannot escape the scrutiny of these eyes. After selecting the target, Shen Fei set the alarm and immediately climbed onto the bed, forcing himself to fall asleep. Midnight action naturally means choosing to stay up late tonight, as it is destined that he will not be able to sleep on this night. Ding ding. At midnight, a hurried alarm bell woke him up from his sleep. Shen Fei quickly got up and arrived at the gathering place in front of the barracks, standing in front of the team. You are warriors from hell, very powerful beings. Tonight, I want you to remove 3 enemy checkpoints. I wish you all success in advance. Do you have confidence? His gaze swept over the faces of each red police soldier, consisting of a total of 20.6, who were directly organized into 2 combat teams, with Wei Daong as the commander of the team. P.S. The update has been reached. If the evaluation vote exceeds 100, we will continue to add updates. Please provide data support. Chapter 8. The bombing of Israeli military outposts and increased attacks on Gaza. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. Have the sound shakes the clouds, and the momentum is magnificent. Shen Fei was extremely satisfied with listening, and a faint smile appeared on his serious face. For the first time facing the Red Guards so closely, it truly made him realize what it means to be as motionless as a mountain, with soaring morale. With such Red police soldiers, why worry about seeking revenge? The Jewish state has provoked itself, and we can only blame them for their misfortune. Starting from today, he declared war on the Jewish state seriously and even took the initiative to launch an attack. Because it was the first time at the beginning, he was particularly cautious and took matters very seriously. Let's go. Seeing everyone ready, Shen Fei ordered directly. Yes. Everyone responded in unison. They quickly boarded the plane under the command of Wei Daong. Buzz, buzz. The propeller of the Black Shadow helicopter made a very strong roar, driving the helicopter slowly towards the high altitude. Quickly, the 2 helicopters disappeared into the night sky, gradually fading away. These 2 shadow helicopters are specially painted in dark green, which allows them to hide well in the dark background of the night. Even if they are far away, their presence will not be detected. The identification system and electromagnetic interference resistance on helicopters are all customized. Even if the Jewish state discovers them, it will only consider them friendly and choose to ignore them, which is highly deceptive and can greatly enhance the success rate of the operation. And the Red Alert soldiers were all dressed in the same way as members of the Canaan Resistance Organization. When his strength is weak, he will blame others to the end. In summary, it is absolutely not enough for the Jewish state to focus its attention on itself. After seeing off 2 Black Hawk helicopters, Shen Fei immediately returned to the base command center, focusing his gaze on the enemy-friendly situation map, his eyes unblinking, afraid of missing a certain detail. Before taking action, he devised at least 2 plans to ensure that Wei Daong and his team successfully removed those 3 checkpoints. 2 Black Hawk helicopters slowly advanced forward, like the Phantom of Midnight, breaking out of the range of crack generators in this cool night. At the same time, it also declares that they have detached themselves from the protection of the Red Alert base and taken separate actions. Jewish State Outpost No. 1. It belongs to a steel frame structure, with a hexagonal starry flag of the Jewish state floating weakly in the wind at the top. A high-definition infrared camera on the high tower is like the eyes of an owl, vigilantly staring at everything around it. The high-brightness searchlights sweep around, as if they want to clean up everything around them. A sentinel on duty stood guard in front of a heavy machine gun, his eyes vigilantly fixed on the surroundings. Next to him was another sentry, holding a telescope and staring at the area scanned by the searchlight. And 5 or 6 meters below the sentry post is the resting place for the sentries after they are laid off. At this time, several soldiers inside the house are sleeping soundly, unaware of the impending danger. Those damn Canaanites, without stopping, actually attacked us. I really want to kill them all. They are just a group of moths, they are not worthy to live in this world. In the monitoring room of the booth, the two sentries were really bored and decided to start chatting. It's not like, "Hey, where did that come from? It shouldn't have been a surprise attack, right?" Suddenly, a sentinel noticed the situation, and his whole body became extremely alert. "Why make such a fuss? Didn't you see that our friend or foe recognizer didn't respond? I don't know why Eagle Sauce is so late." The other sentry responded disapprovingly when he saw that the friend or foe identification device had not moved. Boom! Suddenly, the next second, a violent explosion suddenly swept through. In an instant, flames shot up into the sky. In the blink of an eye, the iron guard box at Outpost 1 was torn apart into powder by a violent explosion. Dada! Soon gunshots rang out from all directions. The ones who launched the attack were naturally the Red Guards. Inside the command hall of the Red Police Base. Ding, destroy an enemy outpost and reward 500 yuan. Ding, kill one enemy sentry and reward 50 yuan. Dot. Ding, kill two enemy squad leaders and reward them with 200 yuan. The crisp prompt sound kept ringing non-stop, and Shen Fei listened as if it were fairy music in the sky, making him extremely enjoy it. Line trough. The bombing of the outpost resulted in a revenue of 500. Is there anything more exciting than this? It seems that it's not just mining that can make money. From the beginning to the end of the battle, it only takes about 10 minutes before and after. This combat efficiency is very high, and it is truly a red alert soldier recruited as a unit. Just this checkpoint earned him 1500. Value. Tainima is worth it. He never expected that the first outpost would be so easily resolved. Bully. Shen Fei, however, was not arrogant or complacent, and his gaze quickly focused once again on the enemy and ourselves situation map. 2 Black Hawk helicopters have flown towards the next checkpoint. The end of the battle was faster this time, but the income it brought was also less, with only 1,000 funds. The third one had a revenue of 2,000, with not many enemy soldiers killed, but destroyed a Jewish armored vehicle and received an additional 1,000 funds. By the time the task ended, it was already 3:30 a.m. Watching a group of returning Red Guards, Shen Fei finally showed a bright smile on his face and his suspended heart relaxed. He knew that the reason why he successfully took down 3 outposts this night was simply to catch the enemy off guard, and he was afraid that it would not be so easy to successfully launch a surprise attack in the future. It is also worth celebrating that I successfully pulled out 3 nails on my first attempt. What pleased him the most was that the funds had risen to 12,000, which was a significant improvement. If you have money, of course you need to continue investing in construction. There is also a Weapons Research and Development Center, which is an institution specialized in developing various new types of weapons. In addition, there are also research and development centers for tanks, aircraft, and ships, and many related institutions need to be established. Although many of the buildings currently seem unusable or unaffordable, Shen Fei is well aware that one day they will still be needed. The troops are still too few, and we are always struggling to take action. Thinking that the operation at night only ended up destroying 3 enemy checkpoints, Shen Fei felt that it was still too little. If there were more troops, he might be able to earn tens of thousands of dollars in one night. Instead of spending money recklessly like now, worrying about money. Resolutely place an order for the barracks and recruit new Red Alert infantry to strengthen the platoon. Oh my goodness, when will I be able to stop worrying about money? Looking at the almost zero funds, Shen Fei hugged his head with both hands and sighed with a worried expression. P.S. Updated to add more than 100 updates for fresh flowers and 30 updates for review tickets. With the support of data, we aim to speed up the encoding process. Chapter 9. The stupid Hamas, we have. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. In such a time of financial scarcity, everything needs to be carefully planned. At this moment, he finally understood why his parents, even his grandparents, were always so stingy about money. Buying something requires a long period of time for balance. It's not that they are stingy and reluctant to give up, but that they really don't have money. With only a small amount of funds in total, he had to make a plan. The priority for production was naturally to prepare for the newly formed Red Police Infantry to strengthen the platoon. After a few days of sedimentation, Shen Fei finally understood. Strength is the premise that determines everything. Individuals, families, and those without strength will always be bullied. If you fall behind, you will be beaten and never see the sun again. Although these are still infantry, they are also significant armed forces that cannot be underestimated. If used properly, they can withstand a regiment's attack. Moreover, he has a brand new plan. 3 outposts were successfully dismantled, and 4,000 to 5,000 funds were received in one night, faster than 2 mining trucks crazily mining in a day. Sure enough, the red alert system was clearly forcing him to go to war, constantly causing chaos. This is completely different from gaming. After careful consideration, it's really like this. How could there be so many gold mines for you to mine in reality? At present, the Middle East has become the most chaotic place on the Blue Star, and the Gaza Strip is almost at war every day, with deaths being a common occurrence. Undoubtedly, this gave the Red Guards an excellent opportunity to hunt and earn money. As Shen Fei was pondering his next attack target, the Jewish Army's military department. The news that 3 outposts were pulled out overnight and dozens of sentinels were damaged quickly spread here. Sitting in the office enjoying leisurely time, taking a gentle sip of coffee, Defense Minister Gallant slowly savored the slightly bitter feeling in his mouth. Defense Minister, last night, our 3 outposts were pulled out by the enemy. We lost 31 people. Suddenly, the door was pushed open and the Chief of Staff walked in with an extremely ugly expression on his face. Early in the morning, before dawn, the relevant personnel delivered the relevant information to him. He immediately realized that the situation was not good and took people to the scene to investigate one by one. Many reporters also came to the scene and took a photo of the outpost. Paper cannot contain fire. He is well aware that the news will definitely spread. Pushi. As soon as the words fell, Gallant was so shocked that his coffee spurted out of his mouth, his face filled with a look of shock. What? Lost so many people overnight. Check it out, let me know who did it. I must make them pay their debts with blood. Taking the relevant documents and staring at the bold font, Gallant roared angrily. Defense Minister, based on the evidence left at the scene, it is highly likely that the damn Canaan resistance organization did it at this time. We must not show them any mercy. Defense Minister, I suggest we take a large-scale counterattack. In the eyes of the Chief of Staff, the evidence left at the scene directly points to the Canaan resistance organization, and there is only one organization in the Gaza Strip that dares to retaliate against them. They are becoming more and more arrogant, completely ignoring them. Previously, 9 of them were killed, and the air raid retaliation operation just ended when such a thing happened again. Surprisingly, he dares to attack the outpost, it's just seeking death. Unfair has its head, debt has its owner. They must launch a large-scale retaliatory operation against Hamas, killing all those people. Are they still Jewish? Send me fighter jets immediately and air raid those dogs. I'm going to blow them all up. Gallant's face was extremely gloomy, and he didn't even think about approving it immediately. So, a new round of airstrikes on the Gaza Strip quickly began, with fighter jets roaring through the air and dropping one after another aerial bombs. In a moment, multiple strongholds of the Canaan resistance organization suffered devastating blows. Gaza, within an underground command center that is up to 70 meters deep. At this moment, the lights were bright, and the vibrations of the air raid on the ground were transmitted here. From time to time, dust would fall onto the conference table, and everyone was no longer surprised by this. This is what they have excavated for decades, in order to engage in sustained resistance against the Jewish state. Since the Yag people, with the support of Western countries such as Eagle Sauce, settled and established the Jewish state on this land that originally belonged to the Canaanites, the Jewish state began to encroach on the Canaanite territory for decades. Gradually developing to the point of being swallowed by a whale, everything relies on its powerful military armed forces. From the beginning, all the weapons and equipment of the Jewish state were provided by Eagle Sauce, as well as by Western countries such as Britain, and even now those countries are still supporting it. And the Canaanites were no match at all, they could only compromise repeatedly, and in the end, they only had a few pitiful settlements and refugee camps left, without even establishing a country. The Canaan Resistance Organization, also known as Hamas, was born at this time. They are constantly fighting to regain their territory, but without the support of major powers, their power has always been very weak and their development has been extremely slow. After the armed conflict broke out between Ermau and Maoxiong, they only gained access to the source of weapons and their strength substantially improved. In retaliation, they launched a surprise attack on the Jewish homeland a week ago using 5,000 rockets. The Middle East conflict has thus begun. This has also become a hot spot and has come back into people's sight. Damn it, are Yag people crazy? Even in broad daylight, they bombarded us wildly, Falk. Commander Sinwar of Hamas, sitting in the top position, cursed in great anger. Until now, he is completely confused as to why he was bombed. The new round of retaliation plan was not immediately implemented. Why did the Jewish state take action in advance? Commander, we just received the news. The Yag people are retaliating that 3 outposts were taken down by our people last night. The chief of staff on the side quickly explained that he had actually received relevant information from the Jewish state's broadcast. What, did our people do it? Which team is it? Call their leader and I will reward them well. Sinwar was slightly taken aback and immediately said with immense excitement. Commander, we haven't found out yet whether our people did it. I have already contacted multiple teams below, insisting that they did not do it. Commander, is it the PLO, Brother Mu? The chief of staff shook his head vigorously with a helpless expression on his face, and he couldn't figure out what the situation was. PS, updated, have you seen it yet? I am looking for a review price ticket. If it exceeds 30, it will be worth more. If it exceeds 100, it will be worth 2 more. I am also looking for flowers to collect. Chapter 10. Red Police Special Operations Team Operations, Crazy Killing. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Even in loose Canaan, there are 3 different armed factions. They are not harmonious with each other due to their roots or other reasons, and they rarely interact with each other, even developing into conflicts with each other. And this time, it was mainly Hamas who launched an attack on the Jewish state. Therefore, they were also unjustly accused by the leaders selected by the Mu Brothers Association, which made them very unhappy and disgusting. There is a very strange feeling in the depths of my heart. They just surrendering one by one. You check it carefully for me, I want to reward those brothers. I still believe that we have capable people under our command. When it comes to the other 2 organizations, Sinwar looks disdainful, but he firmly believes that this must be the result of the collaboration of several small teams under his command. In recent times, their weapons and equipment have also undergone updates and upgrades. It's not the same Wuxia Amon as before. The retaliation of the Jewish state will only lead to global opposition, accumulating more hatred among the Canaanites. Yes. The chief of staff immediately took orders. In order to increase its position and influence in Canaan, Hamas still announced the destruction of 3 Jewish outposts to the outside world. So in relevant international news, Hamas has almost become the only armed organization in Canaan resistance against the Jewish state, almost becoming a great hero in the hearts of Canaanites. Seeing Hamas come forward again to claim the attack, the Jewish state became even more angry. They launched a series of ongoing airstrikes, with news of innocent civilians and children dying in the Gaza Strip appearing like snowflakes in the news media and on numerous short video platforms. What people see is a Jewish state that indiscriminately kills innocent people. Within the Red Alert base. Sitting in the battle command hall, Shen Fei's gaze focused on the electronic sandbox map of the Gaza Strip, and he fell into contemplation for a moment. He is brewing a brand new money-making plan in his heart. From recent news, at least so far, neither the Jewish state nor Hamas, as well as other armed factions in the region, have targeted the Red Police base with suspicion. So, the world has not yet noticed his existence. Then continue to cling on and develop lewdly. Anyway, this is also what he wants. The sandy ground inside the base is too soft and not suitable for mechanized operations, so Shen Fei has put in a lot of effort in hardening the ground. Especially after the establishment of the tank factory, he spent nearly 23,000 yuan on leveling the road surface, completely turning the vast majority of the land in the base into cement. If calculated by area, draw a circle with a radius of 6 kilometers outward from the main base. Counting it up, it looks like about 234 square kilometers. This is equivalent to the area of approximately 4 West Lakes, with an area of 6.38 square kilometers. Is this doing useless work? No. If you think so, then you are completely wrong. A modern mechanical force, even if it were to pull the armored division of Eagle Sauce over, would probably need hardened ground to move quickly. Mudflat and sandy land will greatly limit the mobility of troops. The development of the Red Police base cannot always remain in the infantry stage, but Shen Fei wants to expand this area into his core area and build a Red Police empire with influence worldwide. If possible, he would even join the United Nations and become one of the 5 permanent members. Even in these days of being meticulous about money, Shen Fei didn't feel any pain for spending that money. And he will continue to do it. During the day, there were no abnormalities around the Red Alert base. Lying in bed, Shen Fei narrowly escaped another day. And in the evening, he became active again. The water and electricity network in the Gaza Strip has been completely cut off by the Jewish state, and at night it becomes a dead and pitch-black place. As long as there is no moonlight, this place is out of sight. Black moon and high wind killing night. At night, that is the best time for the Red Guards to take action. The number of Black Hawk helicopters has reached 5, which is just enough to transport a Red Alert infantry for enhanced deployment to carry out the mission. Let's start the operation tonight from the north. I hope to gain something. After confirming the target for tonight's operation again, Shen Fei walked out of the main base and arrived at the square. Looking at the fully armed Red Police, a whole reinforced platoon of troops. They are still dressed in the military uniforms of Hamas members, with black headscarves wrapped around their heads. Even if they walk up to them, they will never recognize their true identity. Report, Commander. 54 members of Special Operations Division 1 have assembled, please instruct. Wei Daong walked forward with a straight body and reported in an incredibly loud voice. In fact, Shen Fei prefers to refer to them as the money-making team, because they go out not to eliminate the enemy, but to make money. As for elimination, it's just a passing matter. If Jewish soldiers were to immediately commit suicide in various ways when they saw Red Guards attacking, why would they be so forced to attack? But that's right. For Shen Fei, this is also exercising his command and combat abilities. These days, besides taking a break, he also went online to study military combat command, trying his best to grow up quickly. Although he does not need to command the operation on site, as the highest commander of the Red Police base, he still dare not be careless and must always keep track of the combat dynamics of the troops. What tactics such as guerrilla warfare, mobile warfare, encirclement and support, as well as Sun Tzu's military tactics, have all become his focus of exploration. In the past, he was just a struggling college student majoring in international trade. However, Due to the influence of the overall environment, Xinjiang and Longwa engaged in a trade war, making it difficult for many foreign trade enterprises, and he also became a member of the laid-off army. Very good. Depart, I wish you many victories and triumphant returns in advance. Without too much passionate words to say, Shen Fei solemnly explained that this was his greatest wish and also his wish. If there are casualties in battle, even if it is a corpse, he must have the task force bring it back. Apart from the respect for the sacrifice of the Red Guards. More importantly, he did not want the Jewish state to discover the presence of Red Alert bases through body searches, which would lead to premature exposure. Yes. The members of the Special Operations Team responded in unison, and then, under the leadership of Wei Daong, they boarded the Black Eagle helicopter. Quickly, 5 Black Hawk helicopters disappeared into the darkness. In the end, even the sound of the propeller could not be heard. P.S. The update has arrived. If the review ticket exceeds 100, we will continue to add more. We are looking for flowers to collect.